Ladies and gentlemen, the world will try to convince you that calm is a personality trait, that some people are just born chill, and everyone else is doomed to be reactive, anxious, emotional, or easily shaken. But that is not the truth. Calm is not luck. Calm is not genetics alone. Calm is trained. Calm is built. Calm is a skill, and like every skill, it has a cost. It requires discipline, self-awareness, and the courage to stop letting your nervous system run your life. Calm is not a personality trait that only a lucky few are born with. Calm is trained, and the proof is simple. The same person who used to explode can become the person who stays steady. The same mind that used to spiral can become the mind that observes. The same heart that used to panic can learn to pause. That transformation doesn't happen because life got easier. It happens because the person learned how to lead their own nervous system instead of being dragged by it. Most people think calm means not feeling. That's wrong. Calm people feel everything. They just don't obey everything. They experience anger, fear, disappointment, insult, pressure, uncertainty. The difference is that they don't treat the first emotion as a command. They understand that the first emotional impulse is often the most primitive one. And if you obey it, you may protect your ego in the moment but destroy your life in the long run. Calm is not the absence of emotion. Calm is the presence of choice. Training calm begins with awareness. You cannot control what you don't notice. Many people react so fast that they don't even realize what happened internally. They only notice the damage afterward. Calm people learn the early signs, the tightening in the chest, the heat in the face, the urge to interrupt, the urge to prove, the urge to send that message, the urge to lash out. They notice the moment the body starts preparing for fight, flight, or freeze. That noticing creates a gap, and that gap is the doorway to self-control. Without a gap, you are automatic. With a gap, you can choose. Then comes the most important skill, delay. Calm people train delay like a muscle. They learn to wait before they speak, wait before they reply, wait before they decide. Not because they are indecisive, but because they are strategic. They understand that emotions rise like a wave and fall like a wave. If you act at the peak, you act from impulse. If you wait, you act from clarity. Most people ruin relationships, money, opportunities, and dignity because they act at the peak. Calm people win because they wait for the wave to pass. Training calm also requires changing what you feed your mind. You cannot train calm in a lifestyle that constantly provokes you. If you live on poor sleep, constant caffeine, nonstop scrolling, endless arguments, and chaotic environments, your nervous system stays activated. You will call yourself just emotional, but the truth is you are overstimulated. Calm people often win because they protect their baseline. They take rest seriously. They reduce inputs. They manage stress before it becomes rage. They don't wait until they're at the edge and then try to calm down. They build a life that keeps them away from the edge. Another part of training calm is learning to detach from the need to be understood immediately. Many people react because they feel disrespected, misread, or unseen. Their ego screams, "Fix this now." Calm people learn a brutal truth. Not everyone will understand you, and that is not an emergency. Sometimes being misunderstood is simply the price of being mature. Sometimes silence is the strongest response. Sometimes walking away is the best statement. When you stop chasing validation, you stop reacting to every trigger. You stop turning other people's opinions into your battlefield. Calm is trained through repetition in small moments. People imagine calm like a big heroic act, but calm is built in boring situations. The rude comment you don't take personally, the delay before you respond, the choice to breathe instead of argue, the decision to step away from a pointless fight, the refusal to send a message you'll regret, the ability to let someone be wrong about you without collapsing. Each moment is a rep, and reps create identity. What you practice becomes who you are. Training calm also means making peace with discomfort. Many people react because discomfort feels unbearable. They want relief now. They want control now. They want certainty now. Calm people accept that discomfort is part of life and that you can survive it without making it everyone else's problem. They learn to sit with uncertainty without spiraling. They learn to feel anger without attacking. They learn to feel fear without running. This is emotional strength, the ability to hold an emotion without turning it into a behavior that damages your future. The final part of training calm is self-trust. When you trust yourself, you don't panic. Panic often comes from the belief, "I can't handle what's happening." Calm people carry a deeper belief, "I will handle it, even if it's hard." That belief doesn't come from motivational words, it comes from evidence. Because they've handled things before. Every time they choose calm, they prove to themselves that they are capable. That proof becomes confidence. And confidence becomes calm. So the keynote is simple: calm is trained, not luck. It's awareness, delay, lifestyle control, emotional detachment, small daily reps, tolerance for discomfort, and self-trust. Calm is not passive, it is power under discipline. Calm people focus on control and accept reality fast, and that single habit separates them from most people who live in emotional resistance. Resistance is when something happens and your mind screams, "This shouldn't be happening." You argue with the event, you argue with the person, you argue with the timing, you argue with the facts. And while you're arguing with reality, your nervous system stays activated, your thinking narrows, and your next move gets weaker. Calm people don't waste that energy. They don't confuse reality with preference. They may dislike what happened, but they accept that it happened. Acceptance is not approval. Acceptance is clarity. It is saying, "This is the situation. Now what is the smartest response?" The first thing calm people do is sort the problem into two categories: what is in my control, and what is not. Most suffering comes from mixing these categories. People try to control the uncontrollable, other people's feelings, opinions, choices, the past, the outcome, the timing, the world's fairness. Then they feel helpless and angry because the universe doesn't obey them. Calm people understand that energy invested in uncontrollable things creates frustration. Energy invested in controllable things creates results. So they aim their attention at response, boundaries, action, and next steps. This is why calm people rarely beg, chase, or argue in circles. They know you can't force respect. You can't force love. You can't force maturity. You can't force someone to understand you. You can communicate, yes, but you cannot control how another person receives it. Calm people accept that quickly. They don't keep trying to win someone's mind like it's a courtroom. If someone is committed to misunderstanding them, they stop feeding the fire. They move. They adjust. They protect their peace. They focus on what they can influence, their behavior, their decision, their distance, their standard. Accepting reality fast also protects time. Think about how many hours people lose replaying what happened, imagining different outcomes, fantasizing about revenge, writing mental speeches, wishing the person would change, wishing the past would rewrite itself. That is emotional wasting. Calm people may process, but they don't live there. They feel what they feel, then they come back to the present. They ask, what is the next practical step? Because the only place you can create change is now. The past is information, not a home. Calm people also understand that control is mostly internal. It's controlling tone, controlling timing, controlling access, controlling attention, controlling the story you tell yourself. Most people think control means controlling others. Calm people know the opposite. If you need to control others to feel stable, you are not stable. Stability is when you can remain grounded even when other people are unpredictable. This is why calm people focus on their own standards. They don't say, "I hope they behave." They say, "Here is what I will tolerate. Here is what I will not." That is real power. Because boundaries are the only control you truly have in relationships. One of the hardest parts of accepting reality fast is letting go of the fantasy. Many people suffer because they are attached to what they hoped would happen, what they expected, what they believed someone should be. Reality breaks the fantasy and the ego screams. Calm people still feel the pain of disappointment, but they don't extend it by refusing to see the truth. They don't keep holding on to a version of someone that doesn't exist. They don't keep investing in a situation that keeps proving itself. They choose truth over comfort. That is why they look calm, because they are not fighting the facts. This mindset also reduces reactivity in conflict. In an argument, most people are trying to win. Calm people are trying to understand, decide, and act. They don't get hypnotized by emotion. They listen for patterns. They watch behavior. They identify the real issue. Then they choose a response that protects their future. Sometimes the response is speaking calmly. Sometimes it's leaving. Sometimes it's refusing to continue the conversation. But it's always a choice rooted in control, not a reaction rooted in ego. A calm person's brain is trained to ask better questions. Not, "Why me?" But, "What now?" Not, "How could they?" But, "What does this tell me?" Not, "How do I make them?" But, "What do I choose?" This is why calm people recover faster. They don't allow emotions to become endless loops. They treat emotions as signals, then they move into action. The deeper truth is that acceptance is speed. The faster you accept reality, the faster you regain power. When you accept, you stop leaking energy into denial. You stop leaking energy into obsession. You stop leaking energy into resentment that doesn't change anything. You gather your energy back into a single point, your next move. That's why calm people look unshakable. Because while others are still emotionally fighting what happened, calm people have already shifted into response mode. They are already building the solution. They are already protecting their peace. They are already moving forward. Calm people don't let ego drive their reactions, and that is one of the most difficult psychological upgrades a human being can make. Ego is not just arrogance. Ego is the fragile part of you that needs to feel safe through control, recognition, being right, being respected, being chosen, being validated. Ego is the inner voice that panics when it feels dismissed, misunderstood, ignored, or challenged. It turns small moments into personal attacks. It makes you react to a tone, a look, a message, a delay, like your entire worth is on trial. Calm people have learned to separate their identity from these triggers, and that separation is the reason they look unshakable. Most reactions are not about the situation. They are about the story the ego tells. Someone doesn't reply, the ego says, "You're not important." Someone disagrees, the ego says, "They're disrespecting you." Someone gives feedback, the ego says, "You're failing." Someone criticizes, the ego says, "You're being attacked." These stories happen fast, and they hit the nervous system like a threat. The body prepares for fight or flight, and the person reacts arguing, defending, explaining, proving, attacking, withdrawing, posting, texting, chasing, or shutting down. Calm people interrupt that chain. They don't accept the ego's first story as truth. They treat it like a hypothesis, not a verdict. A calm person understands something that changes everything. Being triggered is not the same as being in danger. The ego often confuses discomfort with danger. It thinks embarrassment is fatal. It thinks rejection is humiliation that must be reversed immediately. It thinks being wrong is weakness. It thinks silence is abandonment. So it rushes to repair the feeling, not the reality. Calm people don't rush. They breathe. They observe. They ask, what is actually happening, and what am I imagining? That question alone can save your dignity. Another ego trap is the need to win. Many people argue not to solve a problem, but to protect self-image. They want to be right, not to be effective. They want to dominate the conversation, not to understand. They want to teach someone a lesson, not to create peace. Calm people choose effectiveness over victory. They understand that winning an argument can cost you a relationship, your reputation, and your peace. They know the strongest people do not need to prove strength in every moment. They can let someone think they are wrong if the truth does not require performance. Calm people also stop taking everything personally. Taking things personally is ego's favorite addiction. It makes you believe everything is about you, their mood, their tone, their silence, their mistakes, their choices. But most human behavior is self-focused. People act from their own fears, their own stress, their own immaturity, their own trauma, their own priorities. Calm people remember this. They don't absorb other people's chaos as a definition of themselves. They don't let one comment rewrite their self-worth. They don't let someone else's lack of control become their emergency. This detachment doesn't mean they have no standards. It means they choose their battles. They ask, is this worth my nervous system? They ask, will my reaction create the outcome I want? They ask, what is the cost of engaging? Ego wants immediate satisfaction. Calm wants long-term protection. Ego wants to hurt back. Calm wants to stay clean. Ego wants to be seen winning. Calm wants to be seen as steady, or sometimes not seen at all, because peace doesn't always need an audience. A calm person also understands that your dignity is a form of power. When you react impulsively, you hand your power away. You let someone's words control your body. You let a situation dictate your identity. You lose the ability to think strategically. Calm people protect dignity by slowing down. They might feel the anger, but they don't let it speak for them. They might feel the insult, but they don't let it decide their behavior. They might feel the urge to defend, but they choose silence if silence is stronger. This is why calm people can handle disrespect differently. They don't always confront. Sometimes they do, calmly, clearly, without drama. But often their most powerful move is distance. They don't beg for respect. They remove access. They don't chase validation. They withdraw attention. They don't try to convince someone to see their value. They let the person experience the consequences of losing them. This is not manipulation, it is self-respect. Ego wants to be chosen, calm chooses itself. The hardest part is that ego will tell you calm is weakness. Ego will say, if you don't react, you lose. Ego will say, if you don't respond, they win. Ego will say, if you don't prove yourself, you look small. Calm people have learned that reacting is often the real loss. They learned that silence can be strength, that patience can be dominance, that walking away can be victory, and that not every fight is worth the cost. So the key is simple but brutal. Calm people do not let ego run the steering wheel. They feel the trigger, then they choose. They separate discomfort from danger. They stop personalizing. They stop trying to win every moment. They protect dignity. They focus on outcomes. And over time, that repeated choice becomes a new identity, the identity of someone who cannot be controlled by other people's chaos. Calm people regulate their nervous system and use time as a weapon, and that is why they look unbreakable. Most people try to control emotions only at the moment of explosion. They wait until they're already shaking, already sweating, already angry, already spiraling. Then they ask, how do I calm down? Calm people work earlier. They treat calm like maintenance, not like emergency medicine. They build a baseline that is steady, and when life hits them, the baseline holds. Your nervous system is the hidden boss of your life. If it is constantly activated, you will interpret neutral situations as threats. You will hear criticism where there is none. You will feel attacked by simple feedback. You will overthink silence. You will rush to defend yourself. You will crave control. You will feel urgency, even when there is no real emergency. This is why calm people take their biology seriously. They know emotional strength is not only mindset, it's physiology. They protect sleep because sleep is emotional armor. When sleep is poor, the brain becomes reactive, patience becomes thin, impulse control weakens, anxiety rises. A well-rested brain can pause, a tired brain snaps. Calm people don't romanticize exhaustion. They don't brag about sleeping 4 hours. They understand that discipline includes recovery. They guard their bedtime like it's a meeting with their future self, because it is. They also regulate through breath and body. Breathing is not spiritual poetry. It's a direct switch to the nervous system. When you breathe shallow, you signal danger to the brain. When you breathe slow and deep, you signal safety. Calm people learn to breathe on purpose, not only in meditation, but in real life, before they answer, before they react, before they decide. They may also move their body consistently, walking, stretching, training, because movement drains stress chemicals. A body that never moves holds tension like a prison. A body that moves releases it. Calm people use movement as emotional hygiene. They control inputs. Most people poison their nervous system all day, doom scrolling, arguing online, watching drama, consuming negativity, staying around toxic people. Then they wonder why they're on edge. Calm people protect their mind like a gatekeeper. They don't let chaos enter freely. They choose what they watch, what they listen to, who they engage with, what conversations they participate in, and what fights they refuse. They understand that peace is built by what you avoid as much as by what you do. Now, the second half of this keynote is even more powerful. They use time as a weapon. The average person reacts immediately because their nervous system demands relief. Relief is addictive. If someone triggers you, you want to fix the feeling right now. You want to send the message, prove the point, defend the ego, win the argument, get the last word. But immediate response is often emotional response, and emotional response is often regret. Calm people delay. They don't reply when their chest is tight. They don't make decisions when they're flooded. They don't text when they're angry. They don't confront when they're shaking. They know that time cools the emotion and returns the brain to clarity. They understand that emotion is a wave. If you act at the peak of the wave, you act from impulse. If you wait, the wave falls, and you can act from strategy. That waiting is not weakness, it is dominance over self. They also understand timing in communication. Some people speak too soon and create bigger problems. Calm people choose the right moment, when they can speak clearly, when the other person can listen, when their tone will be controlled, when their message will land without fire. They don't confuse urgency with importance. Many things feel urgent, but only a few things are truly important. Calm people separate the two. Boundaries are part of this time strategy. Calm people don't stay in conversations that are escalating. They pause the discussion. They step away. They say, "We'll talk when this is calmer." They refuse to argue with someone who is committed to chaos. They refuse to negotiate their dignity in a heated moment. They understand that not every argument is a problem to solve. Some arguments are traps designed to pull you out of character. Calm people do not step into traps. This is also why calm people recover fast. They don't replay the moment for hours. They don't keep feeding it with attention. They process what matters, then they return to the present. Rumination is a nervous system habit. It keeps the body activated even after the event is over. Calm people interrupt rumination by grounding into action. A walk, a shower, journaling, prayer, work, a practical next step. They move forward before their mind turns the event into a prison. So the truth is, calm is not magic. Calm is biology managed well, and time used wisely. It's sleep, breath, movement, controlled inputs, strong boundaries, delayed reactions, and strategic timing. It's building a steady baseline, then refusing to let one moment hijack the entire day. This is why calm people stay calm no matter what. They don't fight emotions at the end. They train their nervous system at the beginning. And they let time do what time always does: cool the fire, return clarity, and protect their dignity.